And yes, look at this, our very first demonstration of this module, and a demonstration I highly encourage you to follow along with, because you know it's this hands-on experience where you're really going to learn. So we're going to be taking a look at setting up our MTA by installing Postfix. We'll be working, as I say, on Ubuntu 2, and we'll install both the Postfix package and the mail utils. The mail utils is going to give me access to the simple mail client. We're going to use that to test then local mail delivery and see how we can use it to automate some of our administration tasks. Come on, let's find that command line. Now let's just check. This is a command line, isn't it? Yes, I thought it was, when we're at the right place, aren't we? Now the first thing that we're going to run through and do is just check our listening ports. If I include the -n, we show our port numbers, so we can see our database server, our DNS server, our SSH server. If we don't include the N, then we see the service names. Sometimes we have a service names, but we can see for some, such as 953, which is an additional DNS service, we are not seeing the resolution. When I clear my screen, the main thing to note there is that we are not listening on port 25, our mail server port. So we can go ahead then and do our sudo and apt install -y and then postfix and mail utils. Now during this we're going to be presented with some postfix configuration. Now the default here we can see is configuring will be an internet site, so we can send and receive messages from the internet. We could set up local only if we wanted to, and it's really going to be specifying where we listen on and which interfaces we listen on. So I'm just going to go through and choose the defaults, internet site, and OK. Our system mail name, so this is representing who we want to receive messages for. Now we could leave it as Ubuntu 2, but we could also go through and say, as we are representing a domain, our domain is just called local. Remember, we set up our DNS domain name just to be called local. So we can go through OK on this. Now, we only had those two questions. We'll see later that we can bring up that little script and menu, and it will come up with more questions if we run it again. But for the moment, that gives us a simple configuration to get Postfix up and running. As I clear the screen, we can go through now and look at SS-NTL, and we can see now, additionally, we have port 25 up and running. Port 25 represents then our MTA postfix. If we want to see what's really sat behind that, then if we use sudo and SS-NTL, but include the option P, this will then show the process, but we have to be root to display the process. As we then start looking down, we can see then that port 25, and it shows as the master process. The master process is a sub-process from Postfix. If we want to see how we can send messages, if I just type mail at the moment, we can see then that, well, I don't have any messages in my mailbox. But if I now go through and go mail vagrant, and we can then go through and specify that we want to specify our subject and then test message and then hit enter. I don't need to copy anyone. And then we can say this is a message, put a new line, and then Control and D, D for Delta. So Control and D, that closes the message. And now when I go back and look in mail, we can see then I've got one new message. I can read message 1 by putting in 1 and hit enter, and we can see our message, and then I can use Q to jump out. Now we can also use this to automate some of our administration tasks. Let's just take a look at a very simple task here. diff free -H for the root file system. So we can see that we've got 36 gig available, so plenty of space. If we want to send this through to a file, we can then go through and send it through to free.txt. We can start building this up. If that works, we can then go through put the double ampersand. So if the command on the left succeeds, then we can run the command on the right. And we can use mail. And we can send the message to root. We can set up our subject, disk free on. And then we want the date to be generated automatically. So we can open up a subshell and run the date plus %f. Now, making sure we close off our subshell and close off our quotes for our subject, we are done and dusted with this bit. But we can read in our message body by reading in the file free.txt. Hit the big enter key. So all of that has been done, and the free.txt file will have been generated afresh. If we then go through and do a sudo and mail, we can see then that we've got the disk free, we've got today's date, and again, when we go through and read our message, we get to see the disk free space. And of course, then we could cron this, we could automate the delivery of the task and have this running once a day, once a week, whatever we feel is necessary. But you can see, even with this very simple setup, how much use we can get out of it. I'm going to quit out of this now and just jump out.